Republican House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer says the Justice Department will start sharing Epstein-related files with his committee as soon as this Friday. The Oversight Committee also questioned its first high-profile witness, former U.S. Attorney General William Barr, about convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez joins us. So this deposition happened behind closed doors, but Republican Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer did share some of what Barr testified about. Bring us in.
Yeah, well, Jim Comer is, being forced really to do these depositions because Republicans want some answers. And as you remember, Mike Johnson, the Speaker, had delayed an effort that was made in the House to actually force these records to be coming out. And so now you have Bill Barr, who came in today. He was in there for several hours. Among the things that he emerged from this was that obviously, Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. That's what the Justice Department has found. That remains the finding. And according to this deposition, that's what Barr knew from his own investigation. He also said that he didn't find anything when he reviewed these files, anything to indicate that Donald Trump did anything wrong as part of his long-time friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Listen to Chairman Comer talk about this.
Barr said he's never seen any information that showed that he was in the files, and that he would be shocked if there was anything pertaining to President Trump that was negative, that the Biden administration wouldn't have leaked out prior to the presidential election.
Look, no big surprises from Bill Barr, and we always anticipated that he had very limited information about what is in these files. And so, the pressure still is on, Pamela, for these files to be turned over to the Republicans there who have subpoenaed it, and also for the public eventually perhaps to see some of this.
It struck me who isn't on the list for subpoenas, and that would be Alex Acosta, right? He was the former federal prosecutor who struck that sweetheart deal for Jeffrey Epstein back in 2008, who was in the first Trump administration, right? Right.
He was the labor secretary in the Trump administration. But you do have a number of people like Merrick Garland, the former attorney general. You have Jim Comey, the FBI director, who was overseeing some of this early part of this investigation. Hillary and Bill Clinton are also on the list of people to be deposed. And it's not clear where this is going and what they expect to get from this. We do know, Pamela, that in the last few days, FBI agents who spent weeks going through those files in the Epstein investigation, they were told to make sure everything was saved because it appears in preparation for these documents to be turned over to the House that has subpoenaed them.
So is the expectation all of the documents will be turned over?
The expectation at this point is that nothing is going to be withheld. There are going to be redactions, but we don't know until this is over whether they're going to turn over everything.
All right, Evan Perez, thank you so much. Joining us now is James Marsh. He is an attorney representing some of Epstein's victims. Thank you for joining us. I first just want to get to what I was talking to Evan about, that DOJ is preparing to potentially hand over all of the Epstein files to the House Oversight Committee, of course, with redactions. What is your reaction to that?
That's very good news. I think the key to understanding the who in Epstein is to really learn about the how. And this is a process where we're going to start seeing records from the FBI. We're going to start, at least in my client's situation, her complaint goes back to the mid-90s. Her FBI file is 30 years old. And if you really want to unpack what happened here on how Epstein gained his power and influence, you really have to go back to that period of time, the mid-1990s, where he was an unindicted co-conspirator in the Southern District of New York in 1996, the Tower financial scam. And I'd really like to see Mary Jo White, who was not only the U.S. attorney in New York at the time, but she went on to become the SEC commissioner, which is the agency that brought that case. So I think we need to go back a little bit farther, 10 more years prior to many of these witnesses' knowledge, and really start learning about how Jeffrey Epstein became the very significant and influential person that he was.
And we should note it's been more than a month since the DOJ released that memo stating no additional charges in the Epstein investigation, saying that he did in fact die by suicide. What are you hearing from the victims that you represent in terms of what they would like to see happen now specifically?
I think from their perspective, there are still a lot of very unanswered questions. In fact, they haven't answered any questions to date. Most of the information that we've seen throughout this whole month is recycled information. It goes all the way back to the binders. All that stuff is public. My client, Maria Farmer, her file is 90% redacted. We've asked the FBI for that. We've submitted a FOIA. We've requested it for many, many years and come up short. So there's a little bit that we do know, but there's an awful lot that we don't know. And the victims are really looking forward to some accountability and transparency and a full accounting of how did Jeffrey Epstein get so wealthy? How did he gain so much influence? What happened in the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, 30 years that this individual was able to, conduct these activities, traffic in victims all across the world, and yet nothing new in the files? That's really hard for them to believe, and a great disappointment.
Well, you heard CNN's Evan Perez walk us through the list of who Republicans have subpoenaed so far for depositions. You have former federal prosecutor and later Labor Secretary Alex Acosta, who was not on that list. Acosta negotiated Epstein's sweetheart plea deal when he was a federal prosecutor. What is the significance of hearing from him in your view? He's
a key witness. He's a key witness to what happened not only in Florida, but also for his statement that he heard that Epstein was associated with intelligence. He made that statement. It's part of the public record. Nobody's asked him who told him that. How did he learn that information? What understanding did he have of Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with the federal government? And so his omission on this list, to me, is a very shocking and surprising omission, since we can only go by what his statements were.
I want to ask you about Ghislaine Maxwell, because she was moved from this prison in Florida to a lower security facility in Texas. Have you learned anything about the circumstances surrounding that move?
We have not learned anything about that. And technically, under the Crime Victims' Rights Act, victims are only eligible to receive notice if somebody is discharged or moved to a halfway home. A camp is almost a halfway home, all right? I mean, it's not a secure facility. We have very few child pornography defendants in camps. Those are image distribution and possession cases. Almost all those people are at medium security facilities. I've never known any of them to go to a camp. The only time people that are sex offenders or have committed serious crimes get released to a federal camp is within months of their discharge. So it's a very atypical situation. And since we aren't entitled to notice, we didn't get notice, but clearly there's a lot of unanswered questions there too. And a great deal of frustration for the victims and survivors of these crimes that there's been really no transparency about that. Yeah. And really no one to address their concerns.
Very quickly, have you heard from DOJ recently? I know that one of your clients had reached out to the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche. She had told Caitlin Collins recently she hadn't heard back from him. Has that changed?
We haven't heard anything from anyone. So we're waiting. We've been waiting for years for some answers and accountability. In the case of Maria Farmer, she's been waiting 30 years to find out why the FBI didn't follow up on her initial complaint in the mid-90s.